going back to how separate the spiritual from the temporal, the verse ends up finishing with they may be persuaded to do good continually. I would say defending freedom even in a physical confrontational way is doing good, that they may come unto the fountain of all righteousness and be saved. Ultimately, you cannot have Christ's church and the truth and people's salvation occurring without defending, unless you push off the shackles of the secret combinations. You can't have that.
Right.
That will be it's just like the apostasy that all disappeared for people, and probably the apostles were killed. So we have to prevent that from happening.
Absolutely, man. And just like what you were saying, the founders, they understood it, and people rallied. They acted to really create that freedom that we enjoy today. I mean, we're losing it, but the freedoms that people have enjoyed for so long here on this continent alone, like they understood it, they did it. It's a perfect application of these principles.
Right. 100% right. It's amazing how true application, applying the true principles of the gospel, how it transforms culture, society, characters, that in such a way that if we go back to American history, the Americans were able to do something radical in terms of ever being done in the history of the world, which was, let's have a democratic republic where we believe all people are equal. Not just like the elite, but every daggum individual. And also, we think slavery is wrong, but we can't really fix that problem right now because we can only deal with one revolutionary idea at a time. Right?
Dude, that is the one thing. Well, sorry. Okay, go.
No. I was done.
Oh, that's the one thing I love to try to explain to people about the creation of the country, how the Constitution was written, right? Nowhere does it say it's only for white men. Nowhere does it say it's only for a certain demographic of anything. And so the founders were freaking geniuses in how they wrote this stuff, right? But just with the political arguments that they had, they knew they couldn't create this nation by saying, hey, we have to abolish slavery right now. Southern states weren't going to buy it, or the southern territories, colonies, weren't going to buy into it, And so they wrote it in such a way that it was like, okay, we're laying the foundations where this can happen later on down the road with all the different, the amendments that would come to pass, and, people that were living righteously and understood the vision of the founders. Like, yes, the nation's never been perfect, but that's people not being perfect, right?
Yeah.
What other nation in the world in less than 100 years abolished slavery? In under 150 years, around 150 years, gave, equalized women,
equal privileges and rights to all people.
Yeah, there you go. That's the best way. There you go. That's, smart way to say it. The whole the 3/5 stuff that was done for. The suffrage movement was amazing. In less than 200 years, you had the civil rights movement. Like, what other nation in the world, the thousands of years of the world of civilized, or of not just civilized, but of the human race, no other country ever did that in such a short period of time. Like,
well, it's so funny. You bring up the Civil War. A little plug for next conversation.
Going on rants and stuff drives me crazy.
But this is tied in here with the secret combinations, and a plug for the next conversation. And that is, it says here in these verses, the secret combinations are for people to get gain, right? And we know they're murderous. One of the greatest schemes for getting gain, aside, if we go back before communism, which was let's just take from everyone, was let's enslave a certain number of people. That way you can take from the laborers always.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you try to get rid of that, and people hold on to it, but they don't just hold on to it. They hold on to it for your life, not just your life. They're willing to fight a war over it.
Yeah.
There's a book called Apostles of Disunion, where it showed that when the secession was happening, these southern states came together, basically had almost like a continental congress, and they said, all right, we need to evangelize all the other states to be on this bandwagon to leave the free north, because we
Yeah.
need to keep our slaves. It was not about states' rights. It was entirely around keeping black people as slaves so they could benefit from their labors.
What movements today have become evangelized are basically like a religion,
It
right?
is, it 100% is a religion. And that's why if you are progressive, especially Democrat, are going to become progressive as Latter-day Saints. And regardless, you will start replacing the religion of Christ with the religion of progressivism, religion of communism, the religion espoused by the secret combinations.
And that religion also is, in my opinion, is based on selfishness. Narcissism is what it's based on.
The secret combinations of people, it is very appealing, right? It's their subtlety, its craftiness.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said in the beginning, it appeals to people. It is meant to appeal to you. It's not meant to be offensive, or else Satan never would have caused a third of the hosts of heaven to follow him. Well, all right. So I feel like this is a good stopping spot for Gadianton Robbers, secret combinations. We've definitely made it clear that there's a particular political side that espouses all this. But I'm not going to pretend that the Republicans are all this righteous stuff. No. But you do have people who are conservative who tend to vote this way because they find that they are more likely to find candidates who may be more like that. But like I said before, stupid Republicans, they are in the pocket of the Gadianton Robbers and secret combinations. They are a part of it. They just play a different role. Their role is to sucker the righteous into putting their hopes and dreams and money and other things into them to create righteous change. Yeah. They sucker people into supporting them, and they go, "Sweet, now let me take the hope that you wanted. I want to sit on it. I'll take a dump on it. I'm just gonna do it right there."
That's where it's just, you have to pay attention. Not that you have to know everything about politics or everything about every politician, but just start with your state reps, your state people. Like, look at what they actually vote for and what they say. Right? There was that whole impeaching Mayorkas thing last week about the border and everything like that. That dude's been the worst border chief, or whatever you want to call it, Homeland
Security advisor.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the DHS guy, and he should have lost his job a long time ago. But what happens when they put it to a vote? A whole bunch of Republican people, a bunch of rhinos, voted against the impeachment.
You mean Mitt
Romney? No, I don't think he was even one of them. I think it was a few other ones.
Well, but,
I didn't see the whole list.
So Mitt didn't vote for that? Did he not vote for that? Or he wasn't the only one? Because, I mean, I know there's plenty of...
I don't remember. I'd have to look at the whole list again. But
I would be very surprised if he didn't. Mitt is a total...
But it's just the whole idea of, like you were saying, like, it's not just the left and the liberals. Like, there's a whole bunch of people on both sides that, the whole uniparty kind of thing. They just want their power. They get into power and they're going to vote. They say one thing but do another. And that stuff, that's no bueno for me. I don't care what side you're on. That stuff just, no. Drives me crazy, because that's not what, that's not what I fought for with the military and everything like that. And that's not how the country is supposed to be. And, all these other people that join the military, and, well, not just the military people. There's a bunch of other people, but, just people that have the vision of what this country is supposed to be, because they understand that vision, like Captain Moroni.
Yeah.
They understand what kind of freedoms we're supposed to have, and that we're supposed to have our own responsibilities. People are getting fed up with that stuff. They're getting pissed off about it. I'm one of them, because a lot of the times those people are trying to be trusting of the people they elect, and it's just not happening. It's not happening.
Yeah. And so once again, we were kind of put into this catch-22 where it's like, no matter what we do, the Gadianton Robbers are still upheld, and they're getting power over us.
Yeah,
And
man.
Moroni said, the prophet Moroni is saying, don't let this happen. God commanded me to tell you this, so you wake to this and you don't let this happen.
Yeah, man. And so that's honestly, sometimes I'm kind of thinking, have we crossed that point where, kind of like what I was saying earlier, where eventually we become the underground resistance, where you don't really have the ultimate power anymore. Like, the power is supposed to be with the people. Is it anymore? Is the government so big and so corrupt that we can't win? Are we at that point? Have we crossed that line?
My belief is we have crossed that line. And so
Yeah.
now we've gone over the edge of the waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just trying to decide how we're going to free fall to make sure that for different individuals are trying to position their bodies in such a way that the impact when hit the bottom is less damaging. But overall, it's going to be damaging. It's going to be pretty awful. There's so much to say about that. Not that we're trying to be a political podcast, but we are trying to help people.
We are a political podcast because we're trying
We
to.
are, but we're not trying to be like a Daily Wire, but we do want people,
No.
we want Latter-day Saints to awake to the awful situation, like Moroni is saying. That way, they may take the scales from their eyes and stop pretending like their political decisions are righteous when they're not, right?
So then, would you say that we are trying to? And again, we're not perfect by any means, but would you say that then we are trying to help others see things so that they can vote righteously, be politically righteous? Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that what we do re-engages people's discernment goggles, right? You can have night vision goggles, you can have thermal vision goggles. People need their discernment goggles, and that only comes by the Holy Ghost. And if you are not discerning this properly by the Holy Ghost, it's because maybe your consciences have not been burned enough to wake you up. Maybe you are asleep and you need to awake to the awful situation that you're in. The situation is you are upholding the very machine that seeks to destroy freedom across all nations, including Christ's own church.
Yeah. Like, at worst, we're clearly upholding and supporting the secret combinations, right?
Yep.
At best, we're kind of just ignorance is bliss right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of the two options I think a lot of people are taking, especially members of the church.
Oh yeah. Well, but then you get the people who play in the clutches. It's so conniving that they go, "We're not supposed to talk about political things in church." By the way, global warming, climate change, blah, 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 blah. Love all people. Doesn't matter if they date same people, same gender.
I have my agency to do whatever I want with my body. So you're not being political when you say that. Is that what you mean?
It's also like, you are totally allowed to believe the wrong things. I'm not going to hit you for it. But it doesn't mean I get to keep my mouth shut and pretend like what you said was accurate or true, and then deceive the rest of the people, and then I commit the sin of omission because I don't act.
Yeah.
It goes back to what you were saying before. You need to contend without being contentious.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Sharing ideas and thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So I'm reminded of Sunday school last week. It was a pretty good one. And it was interesting because just earlier in that week, I was having a conversation with my family about a lot of there's a lot of people now that have been saying like talking about Nephi and with his brothers and how they all hated his guts and stuff all the time. And there's kind of like, well, Nephi is kind of annoying. He's always like, guys, come on, we need to follow the gospel.
Too
Quit being
preachy.
such dummies and all this kind of stuff. So I made the comment. Well, somebody made that comment of like, Nephi is kind of being annoying, bugging him all the time and telling him this and that. And so a little while later, I was like, I just made the comment of, Nephi is sharing what works. He's figured this out. He's the one receiving revelations on how to build a freaking boat. He's not an engineer. He's a kid.
No.
Well, I mean, I guess at this point it's been 8 years in the wilderness, so maybe he's like in his mid-20s or something. I don't know. They've been in the wilderness for 8 years. It's not like he's been in school studying engineering. You know what I mean? He figured out how to do this. He figured out the pattern of the understanding, the application, and all this kind of stuff. And so it kind of drives me crazy. It's kind of like evil speaking of the Lord's anointed. Like,
dude,
why
oh my gosh.
Like, why are you bugging about Nephi?
Oh my gosh.
Like, yes, more often than not, I probably murmured. I probably am more like Laman and Lemuel, more often than not. You know what I mean? Because I'm an idiot. But
dude,
it's just
that was
but it's just kind of like
mind.
but just I just had to point the fact out. Like, Nephi's figured this out. He's doing it right. Stop bashing on Nephi.
You're right. Well, you said it so perfectly. He's sharing what works. That's so succinctly perfect. But also, you blew my mind that is a way of speaking ill of the Lord's anointed, which we've covenanted not to do. It is. And that's actually bugged me that we live in a time where people like to empathize more with Laman and Lemuel rather than empathize with Nephi / try to become more like Nephi. They go, I mean, I could see like nowadays I hear more often than the other side, which is I hear more often they say, I can see how like, yeah, I would murmur too, like you're in the wilderness, right? Or like Nephi is kind of, he's long-winded or whatever else. I'm like, we are not supposed to empathize with those who ended up destroying the whole family, the family, Lehi's family, and therefore causing wars and destruction for like 1,000 bloody years. Like, we're not supposed to empathize with those individuals. We're supposed to say, I want to be like Nephi.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be like him. I don't want to empathize with these bozos. I want to say, all right, Nephi, I want to be like you.
So bringing it to today's society, what kind of movies are out there? What kind of shows are out there that, all these origin stories of, the Joker, Cruella de Vil, those are just like Disney movies or comic book characters. There's literally a TV show called Satan, and we're supposed to empathize with the evil characters and be like, yeah, I relate more to them, and they're evil characters. Oh my gosh, like, what is wrong with you people? This is not how it's supposed to go, right? We're supposed to want to be like the heroes, And so that's just that messaging and the marketing, like about. You can clearly see how has such an impact on things.
Yeah, you can erode any rock with water. Just give it enough time. and that's exactly what this all is, right? They'll push these messages in all sorts of subtle ways and more overt ways, and they can be as overt as they want as long as we don't shut them down. Eventually, we start to be, I guess I'm not okay with it, but I'm not going to say anything about it anymore because it is what it is, right? Yeah. And that's why I have a message for the men in particular, and the men in this church, which is part of your role is to be the sentinel for your family, for your home, not just in case some guy, on the wing with a gun comes flying into your front door. I'm talking about the sentinel against the spiritual dangers of this world. You cannot be complacent about it. You cannot be like, oh yeah, like it doesn't matter, right? Like, yeah, this movie wasn't that great, but it's like no, like, or to pretend like, oh, what the world's doing is not so bad. I try to make sure I'm very clear with my kids and say, hey guys, if you ever encounter this, just know that's not right. We know that's not right, but don't be fooled into thinking it's right just because people are doing it. Just know Satan has a lot of people confused, and it causes them to make wrong decisions.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to have that water drip erosion of the rock of their foundation to get these holes and problems, because they are encounter it so much they eventually have an acceptance for it, which is happening amongst Latter-day Saints today, which is that so many young Latter-day Saints have so many LGBTQIA trans friends that they ultimately made them just create a complacency / acceptance of it.
Yeah.
And they no longer see it as the evil that it is.
Right. Yeah, man. Yeah, I like that. I like that phrase, the sentinel. We're the sentinel of truth in all of its forms. It's truth and obedience. That's what we need to be.
And we need to. I think of it kind of like a mousetrap. Make your mind like a mousetrap. That when a mouse, which is symbolically speaking, it is the evils that try to come creeping in, steps on your trap, your mind better be like a spring that springs forward and tries to put a stop to the evil that's coming in. I have no hatred in my heart towards individuals like this or whatever else, right? Whatever we're talking about. But I have to be extremely clear. It is evil and it destroys lives and families, testimonies. I cannot pretend it is anything but the evil that it is. But I will love the individuals who are trapped by it. But I'm never going to let my kids think that this is an okay thing. And if they end up falling into it, they know that I'm going to love them. But they will. But I think the first thing that I need to do is I need to be a really good goalie. I got to be a really good goalie. Stop doing things. Yeah, exactly. Like, be a really good goalie. That way you spend less time trying to be a surgeon extracting cancer that's all the way into the bones.
Yeah, I would even add on to that about being I don't know, whatever an offensive thing would be to that. Like, it's not just blocking out the bad and letting in the good, but going out and not projecting, but going out and sharing the good, going out and I can't think of the right word, but just it's not just defending. You also have to go out and do. Stand
you have to
up
increase
for
righteousness. You have to increase the righteousness of the world. That's what it sounds like you're saying. Is you have to promote. You don't just try to keep your own little fire from going out. You're like, I'm going to start.
You still got to go out.
Everywhere.
Yeah, you got to go out and do. Not only is that just your role as a follower of Christ, but for us men, I feel that's your role as a man, is to bolster your community, bolster your country, whatever level you want to try to do this at. It starts in the home. Yes, that's where you can really. That's where most of your work will be, because that's your immediate circle. But you got to do it in your community. You can't just keep it at home. And I think that's another concept that a lot of people in the church kind of get into is, as long as I can keep my family safe and I keep myself safe, we know how the end is. We know that God's going to come, Christ will come, and we'll be saved. No, man, that's definitely part of the equation, sure. But you've got to go out and bolster the rest of your community, the rest of the world, because that's what we're charged with, honestly, in my mind. Like what you were just saying, we can't let evil run rampant. We can't just let it do its thing, because not only is that just a false sense of security, like, it's going to come down to you and your home at some point. and you're not going to be able to defend it because it's going to be so powerful. Evil will be so powerful. And so you have to be out there just as much as the evil is attacking you, you got to be going against the evil.
You're right. Evil is extremely active. Secret combinations, especially now that they are now among us and they are in the government powers, at all levels, not just federal. They are very active in trying to destroy the Church of Christ, testimony, truth, all that, destroy the family unit. They are very active about it. So we need to be very active about defending and promoting righteousness. And you promote more righteousness by, I think of Captain Moroni. He didn't just make one title of liberty and went to one town like, hey guys. It says he hung it in every single city. He hung it up, put it out there. And the people had to come together, right? We had to promote righteousness in order to fight the evil of this world, in order to put a stop to the secret combinations. And that also means being straight up with the members of the church. I love them enough to not want them to be deceived, no matter how happy they seem deceived.
You're totally right, dude. It's just, and I've seen this a lot of times, especially with I'm going to hit on the transgender movement, especially in kids. Parents and people that just say, yeah, you're 8 years old. Let's go cut your junk off and you can start taking puberty blockers and all this kind of stuff. Number one, you're clearly going against the laws of God and the laws of nature. But anyways, but I love you enough to tell you, no, that is not good. My wife and I kind of talk about this sometimes, because they're going to hear, my kids are going to hear this stuff. And we tell them about it and all that kind of stuff too, but we don't tell them that those people are evil. It's just, they're having a hard time with something, just like I've had hard times with different things in my life,
Yeah.
With, PTSD and stuff like that from the military. But it's just, my wife didn't leave me because I was having a hard time with PTSD and I wasn't talking to her. I wasn't loving her like I should have or whatever. She wasn't like, oh, screw you. You do what you want to do. Obviously if I was being physically abusive or whatever, that would totally make sense. But, I was still trying to be a decent person, but clearly our marriage was rough. But she didn't leave me. She loved me enough to say, to some degree, you're being an idiot. We need to fix this. You know what I mean? And obviously there's both sides to all this situation, but just generally speaking, it's she loved me to say, you're not doing this right. Something is wrong. We need to fix this. That's true love. It wasn't, like I said, just if I love someone, I'm going to tell you, you're being stupid. This is not a good idea.
What is being imposed upon them by social media, by the secret combinations of the world that are trying to destroy righteousness and weaken people. That way they cannot fight against them. That is pure evil. Yeah. But when people internalize it, right, and it destroys them emotionally, and even causes them to take the wrong actions, I have the greatest sympathy in the world for those individuals. I feel so sad. I love them to death because I know they're in a type of hell I can't understand.
Yeah, that's a hard time, man.
It's really hard. So we can't judge them unrighteously, right? God wants us to judge righteously, not unrighteously. And where righteous judgment comes in is, well, if said individuals are trying to get other individuals to be like them, that's when you have to put your foot down,
right?
And be like, no, I'm sorry you're going through this hard time, but it ends with you.
Right? Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just just like you can contend without being contentious, you can judge without being judgmental.
Yep.
You make judgments every day, anyways.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Okay, so. Next episode, next one, we're going to talk about the historicity of Gadianton Robbers. Now, there were some videos I watched and stuff a long time ago that I may need to rewatch, and maybe I'll send them your way, about all this stuff, about more in-depth insights about the Gadianton Robbers and
Mhm.
particular meetings that have taken place. They have historical records over. You just kind of go, holy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was good, and maybe we're totally wrong. And those listening to this, they think we're wrong. Leave a comment and tell us that we're boneheads. We're probably boneheads. We definitely have our biases, and we don't see everything. I'm very we talk very sure of ourselves just because we firmly believe the things that we believe,
Mm-hmm.
and we want other people to defend righteousness. Ultimately, that's the goal, right? Yeah.
Well, and along with that, we want to know as much as we possibly can. You know, if if there's something that comes up and we realize, dang, we're wrong about that, okay, like I'll own up to it. I'm not. That's part of the gig. That's part of being truthful is realizing when you're wrong.
Yeah.